Bună seara și bine ați venit. I am very happy to welcome you today here. I was born in this country, so this is very special for me to come back, and also the language is in parts coming back, and I'm very eager to learn it again. And so welcome. And welcome like when our children were born, we have 2 daughters. We welcome them in this life as a gift. And then they started to grow up and they grew older, and life somehow came in our way sometimes, and it brought us some challenges. And sometimes I forgot how much of a gift they are to me. And then I met Nonviolent Communication. And there's both beautiful things that it brought to me. And on one hand, it's the consciousness. It's something like whatever we do is the most beautiful thing that we can do to... is the most... you just want to be close to me. So whatever we do is the most beautiful thing that we can do in the morning, in this moment, to fulfill our needs. And this consciousness has reminded me on every time that I was challenged. It was a good reminder to bring me back to life and to bring me back to what I need to get connected to myself again, and to be open to listen what the child is needing, and sometimes even my husband. Yeah, so, and NVC also gave me the tools to do it. So this is why I'm eager about it. And I hope some of this will get clear to you this evening. Thank you. I'm finished.
Welcome. Oops. Okay. Thank you very much. I think you already said everything what I would like to say. Unfortunately, I'm not able to speak your language, so but I hope I will learn some of your words to get connected. And what I'm really very happy and very grateful about is that when Alexandru asked me to come to do this workshop, lecture, whatever, we were thinking about how many people would be interested. Maybe you thought about 10, maybe 15. And so in the last days, the numbers grew, and there's so touched to see so many people in this place who are interested in nonviolent communication. And so I would love to share some of the ideas of. Somebody asked me, can you make a better father out of me? No, I'm not doing this. What I just would like to do is to share some insights, some of the precious things that I learned or that we learned, being with children, being with our children, or accompanying children in different places. And so some of the things that were helpful in doing this. About my person, we live in Germany. We 2004, Gundi forced me to get in contact with NVC, and after some rebellion, I started to read this book and to learn more. And the funny thing is that in the beginning, I didn't want this. So I told him, no, I'm not, go away with NVC, I don't want this. But then you started with NVC with children, and I found there was some change coming. I mean, I was much more efficient in terms of how to deal with our children. So that means when I wanted them to tidy up the room, they did it more or less. Or if I told them, now it's time to brush your teeth, then after some minutes, they even did it. So I was more efficient, but what I found is being efficient does not mean that this is really building up the relationship. So they were tidying up the room, but they loved you more than me. So and I found that this is, when I'm thinking, why did I want to have children? It is not because I want to be efficient. That was not the reason. There was something, I want to build up a relation. I want to have children to connect and not to do all these work with them all the day. Of course you have to do in a way, but this is not the main issue why I wanted to have children. So we're giving trainings in this area of education, very much so for parents, in kindergartens, in schools, to bring NVC to these places, to support some things that are going in, and we do this we do it in Germany, in the German-speaking countries, in the Netherlands, in Poland, in the Czech Republic, and now in Romania. And what I find is, what's interesting is that wherever I go, I find the same things coming again when I talk to parents. Like when the kids are about 3, they do not want to brush their teeth. When they're about 7, they do not want to tidy up their room. When they're about 10, they do not want to make homeworks. When they're about 12, they want to play computers. When they're 15, they want to have a tattoo. And when they are 17, they want to have a lot of alcohol and stuff like this. So this is something that happens kind of everywhere in a way. And what I like in it is that I find I'm not the only one. And I would like to see a show of hands here. Do you have children who may not want to brush their teeth in the evening? I would say, is there anybody like, aha? Do you have children or no children that do not want to tidy up their room sometimes? Aha. Okay. Do you have children who do not want to make homeworks or bring the rubbish out of your place? Something like this? All right. So it's great. So we are on the same page. But I also would like to know, when you think about your childhood, did you like to, I would like to see a show of hands, who loved to brush your teeth? And who loved to tidy up your room? And who love to make homework? Ah, yeah, at least some. Wow. So for me, it very often helps when we talk about children, just to see.
You're out of the picture.
Oh, now I'm back in. Just to see that kids are doing something, and of course it annoys us, it triggers us in a way. But sometimes when I just reflect back, how was I? And then I think, okay, I did not really want to do my homework, but now I stand here in front of people in a school and I'm allowed to talk, so it's not that bad. All right. So the plan for this evening is that I give some introduction what NVC is or may be, my understanding of NVC, so that you have a kind of a clue what I'm talking about, and then we go into little exercises. Therefore I asked you to write on this yellow page one of those examples of what your children are doing, and then we can play with this a little bit, and then we go through the evening. We will have a break round about short past 8, and then we continue with some information and some exercise. And afterwards, when it finishes, I will stay here a little bit longer, so we have time for a talk if it's something you want to hear. But I'm not the only one, and Gundi, who knows things about NVC. So there are more people who are involved in NVC already. I would like just to see a show of hands. Who knows, who has so many experiences with NVC that you would be open for sharing some of your ideas with other people if they ask you. Oh wow! See, there are a couple of people. Great, thank you. All right. Yeah. So, just a little information about what is my understanding of nonviolent communication. It is nonviolent communication, or NVC, is created by Marshall Rosenberg, who was a psychologist in the United States, who first of all came from a therapeutical way of dealing with people, and the route where he came from was that he was about that this is not that if you have a client in front of you, it's not that he's wrong or he's sick and the therapist or therapy makes something to fix him so that he's good again, but it's more that there is a situation, there is a person on the other side, and the job of the therapist is to guide this, not to guide, to help this person in a non-directive way to follow this person, so that this person comes from his mind, from his understanding, from his possibilities to find other solutions to go through his life. In pedagogic, or in education, this is very well known that Maria Montessori says, for example, help me to do it myself. So this is exactly the way. And Marshall came from therapy, and then he changed more into how do people build up a relationship together, how do they go through conflicts, how do they manage to go through conflicts in a way this is connecting instead of fighting. And so what we know now about nonviolent communication, it's very much about building up relationships. Building up a relationship to your partner, in your company, to your neighbor, and of course to your children. So it's not about how to make them tidy up your room. It's about how can you build up a connection that lasts, that is something stable, because if the connection is stable, then a lot of things are happening quite easy. If the connection is kind of on thin ice, it breaks very easy. Maybe you know this from in your partnership. If you have a stable connection, you just do things. You know, there's some things, there's the rubbish to take out, okay, I do it, no problem. But if the connection is on thin ice, and you go in your living room and you see there are these socks there, and this is a disaster. And he only did it to make you angry, of course. Or you go in the bathroom and then the toothbrush is in the wrong direction. It's just because she wants to provoke you. These are some thoughts that I may have if the ice is thin. So it's not about then discussing about what is the right or the wrong direction of a toothbrush. It's maybe more helpful to build up the connection. And this is what NVC can help with. In your private life, or even in schools, or in companies, or wherever. What means nonviolent communication? The word is not really the best choice. But it says that nonviolence comes from, Marshall wanted to really, he was very much attracted by Gandhi and by Martin Luther King. So this is the reason why he used this word, for a way of how can we communicate, how can we build up a relation in this nonviolence. What I understand in this word violence is, it's not, in particular when we talk about children, it's not so much that we beat them. Of course, this is violence. But there is also violence if you blame them, if you put these guilt things on them, if you shame them, all this stuff. If you or even if you get out of contact. If you say something, oh, you were a bad boy, now I don't look at you for the next 2 weeks, and you are just air for me. That can harm the connection to the children very much. And it's also a kind of violence that we see if it's not that what we do to our children, but also what we do to ourselves. If we constantly go over the steps, over the edges of our energy, if we give us up to serve our children, for example, this also creates a kind of violence in us, because it harms the connection. And so what we do in nonviolent communication is we try to build this up. We try to build it up on the one side and on my side too. So we see both sides, and we try to find a way that both sides are getting energy, that both needs matter, that both needs are seen, and that we can serve this. It's not easy, and it's a process, it's a work, but it's helpful. It's very helpful to do this. And communication, what means communication? Communication means, on the first place, we talk, we use words, we use language, and the way we use language is language matters. So it makes a difference if I say this or if I say that. On all these words that we use, there is a meaning behind it, and so this is something that we really can work on. That we give a special meaning to our words, in particular when we work with children, or if we have little children who are learning our language, in particular. So they learn it from us, and that means it makes some sense to put some focus on what do we really say, what do we really tell them. And on the other hand, it's not just the words that we are, it's more the meaning of the words behind it. So all these, and the meaning I get very much out of this non-verbal things. How do I say something? Like for example, remember when your children were very small and you were in stress, and your child was crying, and then you started to explain your child, okay, everything's okay, you can calm down. Did the child trust you and calm down? No? Did you then repeat again, you can calm down now because everything's okay? Did that work? Probably not. The kids have these antennas, bzzz, and they have it in a very early state. So they kind of, they're not always listening to your words. They're listening much more to the whole energy that comes. And therefore NVC helps you to become clear, so that what you say is connected to what you express. And this is sometimes not easy, because very often I say something and I have no clue what do I want to say. I just open my mouth and hot air comes out of my mouth, and I wonder that my kids react in a very funny way. There's the sentence, do you want to be right or happy? You can't get both, as a quote from Marshall, who just gives us this possibility every day, in a way. What do I really want to have with my children, or with my partner, or with other people? Do I want to be right, in terms of I'm right, you're wrong, I win, you lose, you're the offender and I'm the victim? Is that what we want to talk about all the day? Or do we want to have a different kind of connection? And actually, when I think back about why did we choose to have children, it was actually not because we wanted to have fights about being right and being wrong. Or if you think about when you were choosing your partner, was it something like you thought, look at the others, they have all these wonderful conflicts. I mean, my life is so boring. Nobody's fighting with me, so I find a partner that can really fight about who will bring down the rubbish. Was that the reason, or was there something different? Probably. And so sometimes it's helpful to get reminded on what was the real reason why we want to be with somebody. And Marshall defined two symbols for this possibility of how do we deal with each other. And this should be a jackal. I don't know. A wolf or a jackal, however you want. So this is a jackal, and this jackal is expressing a kind of a language that is going very fast, usually. So you tell me something and I say something back. And very often, particularly with children, I explain the other person there's something wrong with you. And I would like to show you how this works. And Gundi is helping me with this. So she will take, you have already one? So Gundi is playing a child, and we just want to see how does this work if we talk to the child like this. And the question is, it's not is it good or bad what we do. The question is, if we use communication, there are three things that are important for me to see, is a communication working? So the one question is, do I understand you? The other question is, do you understand me? And the third question is, does this help our relationship or not? So these are the three questions. So let's see what happens if my idea is, there is something wrong with my child, and she really has to hear it again. So how would this sound? What is your sentence?
Okay, I'm a girl and I'm 9 years old.
Uh-oh.
And I say, just forget it, it doesn't matter.
What do you mean it doesn't matter? Don't make this face on me. What?
Doesn't matter.
It does matter. I see it matters. Come on, tell me.
No.
Did you do something wrong?
No.
So you're not interested in it? Don't make this face. Okay. Did you ever hear kind of this kind of communication from other people, not from people in this room, but maybe from the neighborhood or something? And if this would continue, do you understand, as a child, do you understand anything from me?
No.
Do you think I understand anything from you? And I'm not interested.
Yep.
I'm really not interested in her because I'm so in my anger, so in my, well, there's something wrong with you, that I'm not open for anything. Is that helpful for our relation?
Nope, I just want to run away.
Yeah, and it's your fault, definitely. And if not your fault, then I will go to your mother and tell her that it's her fault that you're like this. The other way of being in this kind of how can people choose to be together is not with the idea there's something wrong with the child, but I can also have the idea there's something wrong with me. I'm not so good in this, but I can try.
This is usually the female part.
That's what you say. So, darling.
Just forget it, it doesn't matter.
Did I do something wrong? Sorry. Come on, Daddy loves you.
Yeah, I know that.
Oh, but I don't tell you that often, do I?
Yes, you do. But it doesn't matter. It's just leave me alone.
So you... Sorry for being here.
No, just... Oh.
Oh, sorry for saying sorry.
Enough.
I'm good in this, I didn't know. So, did you understand something from me?
Yeah, you're sorry. Your problems on me or something like that. It's like, oh.
I try to put your problem away.
Yeah.
And I did not understand anything from you actually, because I'm so much in my thoughts about that. I'm sorry that I did something wrong. Whatever comes here is just another signal for me, something wrong with me, and I'm constantly checking what is all the wrong things I did. Is that helping for our relation?
Nope.
No, not for me too.
Wait.
Again. Yeah. So instead of doing this, Marshall gave us another animal as a symbol. That's a funny one. This is as you can see, it's a giraffe. And the main thing with the giraffe is that the giraffe has, first of all, it has a big heart. So this is one of the reasons why he took the giraffe, because he really wanted to have a relation, a heart-to-heart relation, and not so much I tell you that what's wrong with you and you tell me what's wrong with me. So this kind of relation. And particularly with children, what's important for me is that a giraffe has a long neck. And this long neck helps me to understand that if I hear something from another person, it has not really something to do with me, so that if I can see it with a bit of a distance, I can leave it at her. Like for example, just imagine you are cooking for your children. Something very, very good, like for example, broccoli, spinach thing, yeah? And your child would say something like, bleh. What is the child talking about?
I don't like broccoli.
He don't like it?
I'm not a good cooker.
So if, as long as you hear the child is talking about food, about broccoli, about taste, about the stuff, then it's maybe relatively easy to listen to it and really leave it at the child and talk to the child about food and taste, blah, blah, blah. But as soon as it starts that the child is not talking about food, but talking about my food, something changes. And if then I hear the child wants to tell me there's something wrong with my cooking, in fact something wrong with me. So the trick, but this trick sometimes needs a lot of work, is really to see there is something coming from the child, and this means the child is talking about him or herself, not about me. That means also that I, as a parent, I learn that I'm not the center of the universe, unfortunately. So not everything that happens around me, with my children, with my partner, with whoever, is because I did. Because I cook bad. They may have their own taste. So this is sometimes really hard work. And for this hard work, it's sometimes helpful to do a bit of a self-empathy, so to find out what is alive in me before I go there, just to be able to breathe sometimes. So if I get this sentence and I see what's alive in me, let's see it again.
Oh, just forget it. It doesn't matter.
Phew. So if I get this, how do you think I feel? And what would I need? How would you feel if you get this from a 9-year-old daughter?
Sad. Sad.
Yeah, maybe I'm sad.
Confused.
I'm confused. Yeah. What else?
Hopeless.
Hopeless? Yeah. Maybe if I had this a couple of times, yeah, maybe. And if I'm sad, what would I need?
Connection.
Connection, maybe. Yeah. If I'm confused, what would I need?
Clarity.
Clarity. Yeah. And if I'm helpless, what would I need?
Support.
Support, help, maybe. So whatever it is, it can help to, instead of just reacting as fast as possible, maybe just to breathe once or twice. And very often the kids help us because they give us a chance for exercising again and again and again. So if you don't grab it the first time, you have the next 10 years to exercise. Easy. No problem. So what I can do is to take some time and let it in and check, all right, what's coming. And the thing that, yeah, there is some sadness about connection and also and confusion. I have no idea what's going on there. And I need clarity. So this is what's going on. Instead of immediately reacting and thinking I did something wrong, just a short break and thinking, huh? And so this huh makes some sense to give some more thing, like for example explaining, look, if you do this, I'm really confused and I would like to have some clarity about what's going on and you would like to tell me? So this is a yes, in a way. And just to leave it here is, did you understand a bit of what's alive in me?
Well, what I heard is that you're interested in me.
Yeah. And do you think I understood something from you?
No.
No, because it was just about me. It's very often when we have this, when I explain what's alive in me, all the important things are said. And then I forget there's another part too. So it's sometimes helpful to see there is something else. So she understood something from me, but I didn't understand something from her. But I'm open. Does it help our relationship?
Yeah, well, I would like.
Yeah, so definitely better than this. Yay. So let's see. So if then, and just doing this, I feel there is something changing in me. So I'm not in this mood of what did I do wrong again, and hopefully my wife doesn't see it, all these things. So now I can be open for see what is alive there. So can you give us the sentence again, please?
Let me read it again. Just forget it. It doesn't matter.
How does she feel?
Bored.
Bored?
Frustrated, maybe.
Maybe bored, frustrated? We don't know, we just can guess. Hopeless. Confused? Yeah. We have one little advantage compared to the child. One day we were 9 years old. It's different to the child. So if you go to your 4-year-old one and tell him, just imagine how I feel. It can be a hard story for him. Maybe he can remember on when he was living a year in other ages, and But in the moment, it's quite hard for a 4-year-old one. The other way around is easier. So yes, one day we were 9, 10, 11, whatever. So yes, there are feelings like frustration, hopelessness. Can you say it again?
No, just forget it. It doesn't matter.
What does she need?
To count.
To count, maybe, yeah. To count, to be important, to be seen, yeah. What else?
Reassurance. Reassurance.
A reassurance, maybe, yeah. So there's one thing, she is here. If I have the idea she wants to go away, she does not want to have connection with me while she's standing here. So she is communicating something which is connected to me. So if your child is sitting in the middle of your living room and says, leave me alone, it makes not really sense in a way. So there is a reason why she's here. And the main reason is probably because she wants to connect. And this is something I can ask her, not by knowing how you are, but more coming from this curiosity. Something like, hey, when you say this, are you sad and want to have kind of connection? Want to share something? And maybe share something and don't know how to express it in words? Just to
seem that you're not interested. That I don't matter.
So you really want to be sure that you matter, and I really like to express how much you matter to me, and that I'm interested.
Oh.
Hey. And I need some help because I also don't know how to do it. So I'm interested in you, and I would like to learn from you how to be part of your life. You want to help me? Hey, thank you.
Okay. Yay. Okay.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you. I just remember a couple of situations where my younger daughter, in the morning, when she got up from bed, I was sitting in the living room, and she passed by, and she had this face. And every morning she came, I thought, what did I do wrong? Did I miss something? Did I do something wrong with that? What was yesterday? All these things. And then very often I asked her, did I annoy you? And after a couple of days she told me, look, this is my face when I'm tired. It's 7 in the morning. I'm tired. But if you continuously ask me if what I did wrong, then you annoy me. And I was, thank you for this clarity. Sometimes it helps. Okay. Yeah, when we do a nonviolent communication, there is. I asked you about feelings and needs. About what are the feelings of me? What are the feelings of my daughter? What are my needs? What are the needs of her? And so we have in nonviolent communication we have different ingredients that support us to get into connection. And so the main ingredients is, first of all, something we call attitude. This is what people say, this kind of the giraffe attitude. And the attitude is something, so that means if we go into nonviolent communication, that doesn't mean we are doing a special program or we're using special words or something, because you can have nonviolent communication without any words. And like, for example, when you remember when your children were very small, like babies, and they were crying, what did you hear? Why was the baby crying?
Crazy kid.
What was the reason? What was the reason why the child was crying when it was very young?
Hungry or sleep.
Yeah, so there was a need for nourishment, a need for rest. What else?
Comfort.
Comfort, yeah. What else?
Love.
So the baby was alone, so it needed to have some company, some things like this. And when you remember, so the baby was crying, maybe not at night at 4 o'clock, that's a different story, but during the daytime, and the baby was crying, what was your energy to go to the baby? Was it something like, ugh, or was it something like, hey, how was it? I guess it was this kind of, yes, I want to contribute. And when you see young parents and the child is crying, they have this very often this smile in their face. And they go to the child and they, oh yeah, you're hungry and I want to feed you, or I want to be with you, or are you alone? Stuff. So they really want to contribute. And the baby is not using any NVC words. It's just a natural way of connection, that we really want to go there, and that we guess the feelings and needs, and we have some kind of we have this. We know each other a bit, so we can distinguish this cry is different than that cry, so this is the hunger cry, and this is the sleep cry, stuff like this. But we want to contribute. And we do not have these ideas at that time that the child cries because he or she wants to provoke me. We don't have the idea usually that the 3-week-old baby is laying in his bed and thinking, how can I make mommy angry? Maybe I cry at night time. So this is not usually the way we think. If we would think like this, we would not live anymore. Or our parents would have. So the natural way of thinking it, the child needs something and we want to support. But then the kids are getting older. So maybe they're getting 2-3 years old, and then they start crying again. Are you still hearing the needs behind it? Are you still willing to go there with a smile? Or is it more like, in the supermarket when they want to have chocolate, and you know? Or if they are getting older, like 6, 7, 8 years old, and they start crying, shouting, do you hear the needs behind it? Are you open for it, or are you kind of, no, I'm not reacting on this? And if the kids are getting older and they come to puberty and they're crying and shouting, are you willing to go? Or is it more like, no, you should tell me, you should be different? And if they're getting older and they are your partners and they shout and cry, are you willing to go there? Or is it something different? And for me, then please tell me. It's your responsibility to make yourself understandable. And then if they are your parents, if they cry and shout, maybe from someday you go back then and say, okay, then maybe this natural way comes back and say, oh, so you're hungry. Maybe. So the natural way of being with other people would be to understand whatever they do, that they have a need and that we want to contribute to it. The same what kids do to us. But if they are coming to a certain age, we need very often some more information to have it clearer. And therefore, it's helpful to have some tools from nonviolent communication. This is observation, feeling, needs, and requests. To have clear words to understand what are they really talking about. And also the intention. So that if we use these words, it doesn't mean that we are really on the path of nonviolent communication. The question is, why do we do it? Do I talk to this with you because I want you to do this? Because I want you to understand this? I want you to da-da-da? Or is the intention that I'm really open for building up? Is this really helpful for building up the relationship? And so if I'm clear with these things, this can be helpful to get in connect, to get in understanding, and to build it up. I would like to, before we come to a little exercise, to tell you a little bit things about these both parts. We had them already, feelings and needs, to get more clarity in it so you can practice on this a bit. Particularly when we talk about feelings, feelings are the main way of communication that children know. We have, in the first row, we have somebody who has a very, very young baby. And does your baby react on your emotions? Can you already?
Yes, sometimes.
Yeah. So this is a kind of language the kids understand, not really consciously understand, but they react on it. So if there's some feelings here, the kids have reacts with feelings. If the kids have something, you react. So there is some kind of a communication happening already, and these feelings are not just something that happens in you. It's more like you have it in you and you show it, so that other people can react on it. That's why we have very similar ways of showing our feelings. Like, for example, when we are scared, we have a certain way of moving, we have a certain look, and this is very similar to everybody. Have you ever been angry or in rage? Yeah? How did you know that you are in rage? How did you know that this is a feeling?
Feeling the pulse.
You felt the pulse. Does anybody else feel a pulse when you are in this mood of rage? Aha! What else happens in your body when you are in rage?
Tension in the body.
Attention, where?
The muscles.
Which muscles?
Chest.
And the chest, yeah? And the hands and the feet, and they go, yeah. And you can also see them here. When you're angry and your eyes go like this, and you get this kind of tunnel view, and you don't hear anything, and
Laser eyes.
laser eyes, and you focus on, it was you, I know it. So this is very similar to a lot of people. But the way we show these feelings, have you ever seen a 4-year-old one showing that he is angry?
Too many times.
Huh? Has anybody seen how this works? I would like to invite you. Be a 4-year-old one being angry. How would that look like? That's not really a 4-year-old one. So if you don't know how this works, go to a supermarket, go to this place where you get this chocolate, and just wait. Don't go with your own children. Just wait until another mom, daddy comes, and wait until they will say, you're not getting chocolate today. And then you see the full picture. And this is great because you don't need to know this child and stuff. You can just hear it. But then, if you see an adult, how adult shows that he's angry, looks something like, in Germany, I don't know how it is here. It looks something like this. Is that working here in Romania the same in Germany? More or less? No, with friends, not with, of course not with you, with others. So the thing is, if we show our feelings in this way, it's probably working with other adults. So if I would stand like this, if I would be your boss and I look like this, you would know, maybe I find another place, blah, blah. But the thing is, just imagine you are, let's say, 3 or 4 years old. Just imagine for a moment. And you see me standing like this. What do you see, and how would you, what do you think what this guy has feelings?
I would ignore him.
What do you observe?
Smile, fake smile.
Ah, yeah, you see a smile.
Maybe the kid will be intimidated.
Pardon me?
Maybe the kid will be intimidated by you.
Yes, definitely. But what do you really see? What is your observation? Yeah, that's probably, you probably sense that there's danger. But what you see is a smile.
Yeah.
What you see is a guy who stands there very calm. What you see is I play with my fingers. What you may see is that I watch you. And I even not. So when I see this as a child, I'm kind of, huh? But on the other hand, I get a lot of signals. A smile means great. To hold a focus is, oh, I'm interested in you. To say, yes, go on, give me more. And I'm even feel a bit bored, that's why I play with my fingers. And I'm standing here totally calm. So what happens is we are in a situation, let's say this is a class, and the kids are jumping on the tables, on the seats, blah, 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 doing a lot of crap. And I stand like this, holding my anger, holding it down so it's not exploding. But I hold it. That's why I stand like this. I hold it. And the kids get constant information, everything's great, go ahead, wonderful, do even more, la 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 la. So they do a lot of crap, and then suddenly a pen is falling down, and then I explode. What are the kids learning?
They shouldn't drop a pen.
Yes, you can do whatever you want, but don't be careful with the pens. And the funny thing is, if the kids are coming home from school, and you ask them, so how was your day today? And then they say, oh, it was great, but the teacher, he cracked up. And you say, why? Yeah, because of this pen, you know. So that's their learning. And so if I feel this tension coming, it makes sense to communicate it in a way that the child can understand, and that we are not waiting until we are blown away. So to give this kind of feedback to the child, to give this child not just feedback, also some guidance. So if you do this, this has a reaction in the with the family, with the parents, with the other people. So and it's helpful for me not to hold it down for ages. But as soon as I'm like, hey, this is too loud for me. This is, please, can you sit? And please, can you da da? To say it, and to say not just in these words like, you know, I'm so angry. Yeah, it's not really helpful. It makes some sense to say it in words that kids can understand it, because kids very much react on, as soon as we are clear, as soon as they get clarity, they react in this clear way. And if we tell them what to do, they very often do it. Most of the times the kids do exactly what we tell them. And sometimes if that annoys us, it's helpful to find out what did we just tell them. But we come to this later. So we're talking about feelings, and the main feelings that we're talking, it's not so complicated actually. We, in particular with children, we only have 6 main feelings. This is, we are angry, we are sad, we are in fear, we are disgusted, or we are kind of in a shock, or we're happy. So these are the main feelings. And if you talk to children, particularly if they're smaller, it doesn't make sense to be so complicated. You know, I'm frustrated, and like part of me is also already resignated. And then the 3-year-old one looks at me like, So it may be helpful just to say I'm sad if I'm sad, or I'm angry if I'm angry. But then I connect it not to the child. I'm not angry because of you, and I'm not sad because you have bad marks or something like this, or I'm sad because you don't do the homework. I'm sad because I have a need, and the need means there is something in me which is not fulfilled. Like what we had before, my need for connection. And the needs are on the level that all human beings have the same needs in the understanding of nonviolent communication. Like, what needs do babies have?
Safety.
Safety, yeah. Love. Rest, yeah.
Nutrition.
Pardon me? Nutrition, yeah. Attention. And do you also have these needs? Yeah? But maybe in a different way. Particularly in terms of food, for example. That's different. But we have these needs. And if you think about old people, what needs do they have? The same. And also something like appreciation and joy and play and all these things. Again, in a different way. And also, what needs do Romanians have? Probably the same than Germans. Probably. And sometimes we have different strategies to fulfill these needs, but in fact, as we are human beings, we all have the same needs. So to come to some conflicts that we have are not about the needs itself. There is a place for understanding, but then we have some conflicts about how do we want to fulfill them, and who get them first, and who get more, blah, 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 all this stuff. So this can be the place where it's interesting to find out what are really our needs. And I would like to connect you to some needs, or some reason, something with the needs. And this is, Gundi said it in the beginning, this is for me the kind of the main sentence that is helpful to understand when we talk about, when we live with children and with ourselves and the partner and our parents and whoever, is whatever we do is the most beautiful thing we can do right in this moment to meet our needs. That means we have a motivation why we do something. And sometimes we have the idea the other one does it to harm me, or to provoke me, or to pick my nerves or whatever. This sometimes our thinking. But the idea of nonviolent communication is that whatever we do, we try to fulfill our needs in this way. And so even if people do something that we don't like beating each other, or a small child is biting the other one, it's not because he's hungry or he wants to harm the other one. It's probably there's another need behind it that maybe it can be interesting to find out what it is. And sometimes the 2-year-old one cannot answer you this question. If you go, why did you bite? So what we can try is to empathize with this child and find out, maybe because he wants to play with this guy, he wants to get attention or whatever. And then we can see this child does something with the most beautiful thing that doesn't mean it's nice. It just means that this is the best thing that the child has learned in this moment to do this. When the children are born, they have not this big spectrum of actions they can do. The most action, or more or less all the action the kids learned through his life is being learned by others, by copying parents, by copying brother and sister, by copying other people, by copying people in the school, for example. So this is how learning works. So we see something, we try something, we copy something, and then we do it. So for example, when I was 4, I tried to get in contact with people. I had my shuffle, and I say, hello. Yeah, so this happened in Germany, of course. I don't know if it happens here too. So this was my way of getting in contact. I learned this is not a proper way of being a certified trainer and being able to do workshops. So I learned it's much better to get in contact. It's like, hello, my name is Frank, welcome. So this is my learning. And most of us have learned these things, with or without NVC, just through life. And we can support this learning with children by giving them possibilities of learning, to find out what is the need and how can they do it, and support them by finding their own ways of doing this. And we need, neurobiologists say, to really have a new instrument how we deal with things. We need about 200 repeatings of it connected to emotions until we find a new way of doing something. For the children and for adults too. Sometimes when you are in the conflict that you forgot about all these things. Of course it's the other one's fault, yes, but maybe you started to shout again and all these things, what you always did when you were like this. So you do it again, and then to learn something new, that means that you really practice it connected to emotions. And then you learn something so that you can, the next time or 200 times later, you have something different. Children learn this very fast because they do this kind of social plays all the time. They play with their puppets. You should be my mother, you should be my daddy, you should be me, and and then they play, and then they have this emotion, and then they learn how to find new solutions. And we can support this. We also can do it in the life situation or in role plays or wherever, and we can support the kids doing this. And then they learn. And of course we can structure this a little bit more to give them possibilities of learning. One of the problems is that kids learn from the adults a lot. But sometimes it's not the best thing to learn from adults, actually. Like you, about conflict solution. This is one of the big things in schools and kindergartens. The kids should learn how to solve their conflicts. Yeah. Who of you is good in conflict solution? What I mean is, so like something like, have you learned in your childhood from your parents and from your school something, a good way of dealing with conflicts, which does not mean running away or hiding or crying or shouting or attacking, all these things, but really going into the conflict, staying in it and pointing your point and listening to the other and finding a good solution for both sides? Who has learned this? Whoa! We have somebody. Usually there's not that many people who have really learned this from their childhood, and when I then see being in the families, how often it happens different. So this is a learning thing that we really can do with our children. And very often we do things like the child comes and my daughter tells me, yeah, they don't want to let me play with them. And what I do is go to them and tell them they should play with you again. Easy. So this is a conflict solution thing. Just imagine you have a conflict with your neighbor, and he does a barbecue, and somebody comes to you and says, just go to your neighbor and tell them you want to be part of the barbecue. Not so easy. So kids learn a lot from us, and we can learn a lot with them if we are open. That doesn't mean we are the same, we are not on the same level, but it's interesting to learn how they do it, and even sometimes to tell them I have no idea how to do this. So let's find out. Take some puppets and let's try this. I would like to know from you about this thing. Is it kind of true that whatever we do is the most beautiful thing to fulfill our needs? And therefore I have a little exercise for you. So the exercise is about what was your bad action when you were a child? So just think back on your criminal youth. When you did something really, really bad. Like, for example, you were stealing a sweet from your grandmother, or you were eating strawberries from the neighbor's garden, or even you were copying homework from another person. So, something very criminal, you know? And, or cutting your sister's hair for whatever. So, the invitation is find a partner and just have an exchange. What was your criminal action when you were a child? And just explain. But the interesting thing is from the other person listening. So don't listen with this finger, you did something wrong, don't do it again. Because now we are adults, we're not doing it again, never. But it's more like coming with this curiosity. What was the good reason why you did it? How did you feel? And what was the... Yeah, why did you do it? So find it out together, and so let's take 3 minutes in both directions so that we can kind of share a bit what was the reason why you did something when you were a child. Please. So there are things that children are doing, and they're particular, they do it in certain ages. So if they are usually, if you want to find a bad action that you did when you were a child, you wouldn't find something when you were smaller than 3 or 4, because you wouldn't be even able to judge it as bad, because you just do what you do. And then if you're getting older, when you're in the kindergarten, you do a lot of things just to see how much you can do. Do I matter? I have a new thing to do, like a shovel, and look how this works. So it's not that I want to harm somebody, it's just for me to have this. And if I'm coming to the age when I'm in the first school, from about age of 6 to, let's say, 11-ish, it's very much about friends, about getting attention from parents or from other adults. It's very much about adventure, play, fun, and then we are getting older, and then very much about, because we connect to the peer group, and then we have very much about belonging, connecting to them, and getting their attention, getting respect, and then we're getting older, and then very often we want to be like adults, so we do funny things with funny stuff to smoke and whatever, things like this. And very often the very young kids, like in kindergarten, they just copy us. Like one woman the other day, she said, what she did is her cousin, he was sitting in the bath, and she kind of put him underwater, not because she wanted to harm him, but because if you sit in a pot of water, you have to wash your hair, and that's what she wanted to do with her 5 years. And of course, it's helpful not everything that children do it's helpful to understand, but doesn't mean to accept. But it's not because she wants to harm him. It was just to copy parents. Yeah. Right. When we use, yeah.
How would, I don't know if you want to explain along, but how do we find the good intention? Do we ask the child?
Mm-hmm.
Do we guess?
We definitely guess.
Yes.
But very often the child cannot give me this answer. Adults also not very often. So if you are in a conflict with your partner and you are angry and he's angry and he would ask, so why are you angry? Then you usually don't get proper answers. So we need very often, we need some help to connect with ourselves. And this help can be that we guess, that we guess with the child, or sometimes, particularly when the child is smaller, we as adults, as parents, can guess something. And then we can see, aha, if I see it from this point of view, then we can try something different. We can ask the child, or we can give this to the child and ask the child with child's words, something like, are you really angry and you really want to to choose yourself? And then sometimes the kid can say, yes! Or I just can understand, just because the child reacted in this way, maybe that's because the child wants to choose something, so wants to have his need for autonomy be fulfilled. So it doesn't mean it has to be fulfilled in that situation, but it can be helpful to find places where the child can live his autonomy, and if it can be lived there, it doesn't have to be lived here all the time. So we can guess in this way, and we can ask. And if the children are getting older means, because we do a lot of work in kindergartens, so if it comes from the age of 5, if they are getting connected to these, also to these words, to this language, they are really learning to express themselves in these words, and they can express, and sometimes we have material without words but with pictures, and then they can express, this is how I feel and this is what I need. So we can support this. And then when they're getting older, it's getting easier. What we did before the break was trying to get in contact with the other side, with the child, with the other person on the other side, something that we call empathy. Meaning that I try to get in contact with this, not just guessing something, but in a way feeling what you feel, feeling what's alive in you. And this is something that may help a lot in relation. So it's not that you solve the other one's problem all the time. And I know it for myself how often I have the idea that as soon as somebody has a problem, like my wife or my children or whoever, the first thing I do is I try to solve it. Ta-da! I find a solution for your problems. And sometimes I'm good in it, but most of the time not. So I do just something and hope that it will help, and then I'm annoyed afterwards that it didn't help. But sometimes, not always, but sometimes I find it's much more helpful just to understand the other person instead of fixing something. And in particular, if there are situations that you cannot easily fix, like if your child, for example, comes home from school and tells them, I don't feel comfortable in the class. I mean, how can you fix this actually? You can go in the class and say, you have to love my child. Something like this, it's not really working. So then in this situation, it's much more helpful just to be there. Just to be there with all your attention, just to be open to listen, just to stay there. And if you think about your best friend that you have, if you go there to this person and you have a kind of a problem, if you don't feel good with the situation, how would you like your best friend to listen to you? What shall this person do actually? Shall she or he fix something for you?
Shut up. Shut up and listen.
Shut up and listen. So this is one of the things, if I want you to listen, so that means mainly use your ears and maybe use your heart, but don't talk so much. Yes, shut up and listen is one of the things. But shut up and listen can be in different ways. Like if you ask somebody, can you please listen how I am, and say, okay, go ahead. Is that shut up and listen that you want? So what else?
If you look us in the eyes and try to be interested in maybe asking questions and
be really there. Look in your eyes. Look. Be aware, or give some presence to this person, and express this presence and your interest by asking something, by something. Give something back that you understood. Yeah. Do you want to have solutions? Maybe if you ask for it. Yeah. So this is what we understand mainly when we talk about empathy, being with the other person. It doesn't mean that you accept what the other person is telling you. It's just, first of all, to be there. And maybe to support this person to solve some situations. And then there's the other side. and the other side is me. And so when there is something, when there is a problem coming up, I can also check, does it bother me? And if it bothers me, it may be helpful to tell this to the other person. In a way that we call honesty in nonviolent communication. So I talk about myself. And therefore it's helpful again to talk about my feelings and my needs, but also about a little bit more. For example, about my observation. So what are we talking about? One of the things why we have a couple of conflicts is we talk, but we do not talk about the same stuff. We talk about different things. You talk about yours, I talk about mine, and then we talk who's right and who's wrong. So sometimes it can be helpful to start with what are really my observations. Like if I go into the room of my children and I say something, this is a total mess. Is this an observation? It's a judgment? Yeah, that's what my daughter would also think. And because she thinks that this is a judgment, I would go, this is a total mess, and she would probably say, no. And because I'm a trainer for communication, I would say, yes. And she would say no, and I would say yes, and she would say no. And you know, and then you have this kind of conflict starting with something, and it just ends in yes, no, who's right and who's wrong. So if I want her to understand what I'm talking about, it may be helpful to describe my observation. What is my observation if I have the idea this is a mess?
The socks are on the floor. Are on the floor.
Pardon me?
Your things are on the floor.
Yeah. So there are things on the floor. There's the dishes from last week, and there are clothes, and stuff like this. So this is what I see, and it's helpful to name what I'm talking about, because then the child has an idea what I'm talking about. Like for example, if I tell you, look, this is a real mess. Nobody lives like you. If you live like this, you will end up in under the bridge. Yes. Do you have now any idea what I'm talking about? And what is, if I'm telling you these things, where is your mind going to? What do you see in your imagination?
Nothing concrete.
Nothing concrete. What else?
Something's wrong with me.
Yeah. Did anybody of you see a bridge? Yeah. So immediately the child is thinking about bridges. Was it a stony bridge, a wooden bridge? What kind of bridge will it be? How will be life under a bridge? Is it summer? Is it winter? What if it's raining? Blah, 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 blah. So the kids is following us. But they immediately forget what we're talking about. And if I tell you, look, there are the socks, and these are the books, and this, where is your imagination going to, or where is your, yeah, you follow. Actually, you follow. You go, aha, yeah. So that doesn't mean they tidy up now, but they know what you're talking about. So it can be helpful to describe your observation, and but sometimes the observation of the child is different. So, like for example, what is this? I don't. It's an elephant. Aha! That's what you see. Yeah. So some of you may see an elephant and a snake. Some of you may see a hill. Some of you see a hat. Some of you see just a black thing with yellow color in it. So this is probably what we all see. But then we make something out of it. And if you remember the little prints, then you see, aha, this is a snake and the elephant in it. But if you just have a little boy at home who's playing cowboy, you probably see a hat. So it's there's no truth in it. And sometimes it's helpful particularly when we talk to children, not to stick on this is right and this is wrong, but sometimes to be open. Can you explain me how you see the world? And I would like to explain you how I see the world. Because this is not always the same. And just to come with this curiosity can help us to understand some things. In particular, if it comes to conflicts, when I see two kids are fighting, very often we go with this idea we have to find out what is the truth, what is the real observation, who started. That's the main question, who started the thing. But what do you mean with who started? There is somebody, Václavík, I don't know if you heard about him, he's a communication trainer, not trainer, he wrote books about communication, and he said, there is something with this question, who started. There's a wonderful example saying, there's a woman, she's picking on her husband, so, and then the man turns away. So the situation is, she's picking, he's turning away. He's turning away, she's picking on him. She's picking on him, he's turning away, he's turning away, she's picking on him, she's picking on him, he's turning away. Who started? Who started?
Of course she.
Of course she, says he. Or the other way around. So from each, if you ask him or her, it's always the other one. And the situation is immediately that each of them say, I could only react. I had to turn away because she was picking on me. Yeah, but I had to pick on him because he was turning away. So the question is not who started, the question is who can change something. And if we go there, it can be helpful to not to stick on what is right and what is wrong, but to see, aha, if it's something like this for you, let's go with this way, and if it's something for you, we go that way. Very often when we talk about, when we start a dialogue, when we talk about what are we talking about, people are not talking what is it really that we talk about, but they try to make the problem a little bit bigger in the hope that people understand better. Like, for example, if your child is not bringing the bin outside, instead of saying the bin is here, you make it bigger and say you always or you never bring it outside. Did you ever use this word ever, never, or always? Yeah? No? But you may know somebody who did it. The funny thing is, when you say something like always, you have an immediate reaction on the other person. And the immediate reaction is never or always. Like, for example, when you tell somebody, you are always late, then the reaction is, no, I'm never late. Or you say, you're always late, yeah, and you always pick on me. So you get the same thing. And if I want to be kind of talk about something, it makes some sense to talk about my observation now. And if I have the idea I have to make it bigger by using words like always, I found out, oh, this is because there's a lot of emotions involved, so it's better to express my emotions. So it makes sense to say, well, when you come 10 minutes after our appointment, I'm really angry, instead of starting, you're always late. And you can just check how would that land for you. How open would you be, and how would you say if somebody comes to you, you're always late, are you saying, oh yeah, thank you that you tell me this? Would you like to continue, tell me a bit more about it? I wouldn't. So it can be helpful to have a clear observation. And if we have a clear observation, this is what we're talking about, this is how I feel, this is what I need. And then we come to the request. What do you want the other person to do? And therefore I would like you to stand up. Okay, and now please make a little step to your left. Aha! It worked, more or less. So if we know today, where left and right is today, then we can do it. There are two easy requests that I gave you. I have another couple of requests for you. And ready? And just do what I want you to do. Can you please behave well? Can you all stand properly? More properly, please? Can you just be normal? At least once? Can you please stop making a fool out of me? Why are you not doing what I want? Did you ever hear sentences like this? From others, of course, you know. You may sit again if you want. So, these are some sentences that kids hear all day from, not from us, of course, but from others. And very often they're not able to fulfill what we want because they do not really know what we mean when we say, can you just behave normal? Be nice, be brave, behave well, sleep now. Be civilized, yeah. Don't bring shame on me. That's a nice one. So they do not really know what we want because the reason is because we don't say what we want. Very often we say what we not want instead of what we say what we want. Like don't touch, don't make a mess. Very often they do not know what we want because we do not tell them a concrete thing. We tell them something abstract, like be normal. Or pay attention. Can you please all pay attention now to me? More? It's funny when I worked in the class and I went to the class and said, can you please pay attention now? They all went like this. And actually it's not because when you move your head like this, your brain goes down there, so your ear is working better or something. This is not working. What they actually do is they show you a behavior that only shows. It's like a dog that when you shout at them, they go on their back and show, okay, I give up. I do want to de-escalate, and this is the same what the kids do. They look like this. Even adults do the same. It's not because they are paying attention, because they are in a state of stress. So if you see a child doing this, then it's not giving you any attention. Sometimes it's helpful to find a request that is doable. Do you think it's doable if you tell somebody sleep now? You can try this. If you next time when you wake up at 4 o'clock at night and you can't sleep, you can't find sleep, just tell yourself sleep now. I'm sure this will kind of work. So there are a couple of things that we tell kids, and I would like you to practice on this a bit. So if there is one of those situations or one of the situations that you have in mind, something that you would like to tell a child. And what is the situation? First of all, what is your observation? What are you talking about? How do you feel about this thing? What is your need about this thing? And what do you want the child to do now? And what we can do is, we can do it in small groups and practice a bit on it and see and get a feedback from the child. How is it landing? When does the child stop listening? And when can we continue? And did the child understand what I want? And it's so helpful to tell the child what I want, because I want to give the child some guidance. I want to give the child some orientation how to go through life. But therefore we need the child to listen to me.